Welcome to the Time Has Come podcast. My name is Graham Wardle, and thank you so much for joining me again for episode 7 of my show. Today we have Lynette Elinda on the podcast, and she is truly a remarkable human being. I've been working with her for a few years now, and she is what some would call a life coach, yet I see her more as a spiritual guide. In this episode, we dive into a few of my favorite topics, like the power of integrity, of righteous anger, and the power of peace. We explore what it means to have extrasensory abilities, and we also introduce Lynette's first audio experience that she wrote and narrated, and it's called Mathemagical. I am the editor and producer for Mathemagical, and I'm excited to share a small introduction to it near the end of the show. So, the time has come to welcome Lynette Elinda. Lynette, thank you so much for joining me here today. How are you feeling?
Wonderful.
This is Lynette. She doesn't normally talk like this, but she has many voices that she does during her coaching calls and her sessions. What's your gangster one? Don't you have like a...
Luigi and Guido.
Yeah.
Kitchen. Yeah. Hey, Luigi. Hey, Guido. I got a point to make. Let's make a point today. Yes, no, I don't normally talk like that. Thank goodness. Life would be interesting.
But humor is one of your tools, one of the ways that you communicate things. And I think that's great.
It's a divine tool, actually. I can't say that it's mine. What I actually would need to say, if I was to be honest, is that it's something that comes from that state of being. It's just a natural way of seeing things. It's just the way that you see life. I mean, not all the time, obviously, but I would definitely have to say that I'm someone who tends to see things on the lighter side, for sure. I have to.
Yeah. If
we don't use that as a form of levity for some of the intense stuff that life throws our way, oy vey.
It's a way, like a wedge almost, like to keep people relaxed. You know, if there's a humor element involved, then it can kind of like allow people to just kind of sit back and it wash over them as opposed to defenses up.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, one of the forms of humor that I use is sharing stories about myself and how I've managed to really, as the British would say, cock things up. Right, proper. I just cocked it up proper good, I did. And so when I share those stories, it's a way for me to help someone else who might be really hard on themselves, for example, to see that, it's really not necessary, that life is really, truly designed to be lived on the lighter side, and not to force it, but to recognize that when we start to let things go, when we start to go, okay, well, you know what, maybe it's the end of the world, but hey, I got 20 minutes left and I can decide how to spend those 20 minutes, right? We can have some fun, or we can,
doom and gloom.
Doom and gloom.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would you like? What do you choose? And as you know, I experienced dying and coming back. And I didn't plan on dying that day. It was unscheduled. No, it bloody wasn't on the schedule, honestly. And so, there I was, dead. And Now, for people listening, what do you mean by that? You dead? You were in a hospital? I flatlined. In the hospital? Yeah, I'd had a minor surgical procedure.
Yeah.
And I flatlined, and quite an extraordinary experience. I don't know if we need to go into it now, maybe another time.
Okay.
But the gist of the story, the point that I'm trying to make with regards to the story today is that, I'd left lasagna defrosting on the counter to make for my children a pre-made meal when I came home from what was to be a day procedure, and just expecting that I'd be able to toss it in the oven and bippity-bop, feed the kids and toss them in bed and crash myself because I figured I'd need it. And I died that day and didn't get home till too late to prepare that dinner and had to throw the lasagna in the oven. And it hit me in that moment as I was tossing it in the bin. Not that I died or the other extraordinary parts of that experience that came with it we can go into another time, but that there are no mundane tasks. To take nothing for granted. How beautiful and delicious would it be if I was to be preparing that lasagna for my family, knowing it was the very last time that I would ever be able to do that for these children at this time, in this body, in this way, this meal? We never know.
Yeah.
And with that comes a choice. You can go into fear, or you can go, yippee-ki-yay. Let's just do whatever we can to have a good time and let it go and be present for the moment, be present for the challenges, but don't live them don't live in them in between.
Get stuck in them. Yeah.
Don't dwell on them. Don't stay in them, because dwelling on the problems don't make them go away.
Mm-hmm.
Or doesn't make them go away. Oops. Sorry, grammar, Mom. my mother's always present.
I find that meditation for me in the mornings is so helpful to not get stuck in those day-to-day things and
crucial.
to be present in like, okay, I'm going to do the best I can with this. Like I might not enjoy this activity, or I might be having a funk right now. But if I have that morning meditation just to remind myself to just kind of relax that, my mind's
The logical
grasp
mind,
on, life and wanting it to be a certain way.
The logical mind is designed to take things personally, to form attachment. That's a part of what we're setting ourselves free from, is the control that it has over us to do this when we don't want it to. So meditating morning and evening, I call bookending.
Mm-hmm.
Beginning and ending your day, with that reaching out, that meditation. Some days, it might be, in my world, some days it's like, high five, divine source, I see you, I'm here, but I gotta go. I know you're there, hi. And, at the end of the day, it might be longer. I also might reach out many times throughout the day, depending on what I've got going on. And I do that through the breath. So, as you know, I call it bookending and grounding and crowning. So bookending is simply a practice of beginning and ending your day with a quiet mind.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for me, we've talked about this many times, meditation is not listening to someone speak. Meditation is training our body and eventually gaining the position of being able to surrender to the stillness. So transcending the physical story, the mind, the logical, all of that. Transcending that, to me, is transcendental meditation, to be able to let go of that. And a lot of us are being taught that meditation is listening to, some celebrity talk about something. Well, that is not really a meditation. A true meditation, in my experience, and for what I need to do, what I've been doing for decades, requires the stillness. And when I begin my day and I end my day, saying high five to the stillness, I see you, I feel you, I connect with you. This transforms our day-to-day story and experience, as you...
Yes. Yeah, and I've learned that from you, and I'm still learning that because, I've practiced meditation, and I never knew it to be something of a listening thing. So because I had listened to guided meditations, and I still do sometimes, and I call them meditations, but I understand what you're saying is that
guided meditation is a different thing. I do guided meditations as well. But those to me are guided. So there's a difference here. We talked about this the other day, prayer, meditation, guided meditation. So if I was to share my perspective in very, very simple terms, guided meditation is something that begins to train the mind or supports the mind in a contemplative state, to be open, to listen relaxed, to new ideas, to positive ideas, to life-altering information, to be fully present for it is what I would really call a guided meditation. Like in mine, there's many where I'll say, let go of the story, whatever I'll be encouraging people to do. Mm-hmm. A guided meditation can be like a training.
Okay.
Okay.
Versus what's the other one that you're talking?
Transcendental meditation or stillness meditation. True meditation is done silently. And the name of the game is to quiet the mind so that we can access the stillness from which we dwell. We need to let that sink in. We come from the stillness. So the name of the game is essentially to quiet the logical mind, the story, the monkey mind, I like to call it.
The little voice in your head that's always going.
Yep. Quiet that down so that you can access that stillness, because that's where the gold is. That's home. Mm-hmm. So, one of the ways that I like to describe it is that you've got this wise oracle, all-knowing oracle at the back of a cave. And at the front of the cave, you've got an ornery 2-year-old dragon, fire-breathing dragon, we shall call Ego.
Okay.
Ego, the fire-breathing 2-year-old dragon.
Okay. I'm getting a visual. It's good.
Right. So we essentially want to toss the dragon a bone, so to speak, to distract it, to keep that logical ego mind busy while we access the oracle. Now, we don't want to get rid of the fire-breathing ego dragon. We need it. It's part of the experience. But we want to learn to work with it and around it. So the mantra that I give in my meditations that takes us into the stillness is designed to sort of throw that ornery dragon a bone so that it doesn't fire breathe and cause trouble and distract us.
Yeah.
So that we can just scooch past and
And
get in and see the oracle and have a bloody good little chat, yeah?
And a mantra is like a phrase or something you repeat in your
Yes.
mind. Yeah.
And what it does is essentially puts the monkey mind on repeat.
Yeah.
And I remember myself beginning to use a mantra decades ago now, and what I immediately began to experience, and it happens at different speeds for people. So again, I want to remind people that I am a little bit different in terms of some of my development in intuitive gifts. So meditation was very fast for me, essentially just re-remembering in this body.
Mm-hmm.
And the meditation for me immediately gave me this tool to quiet the dragon. And then what started to happen, one of my first experiences, was that it was like I started to now be separate from the dragon. And I could watch myself sitting there lulling the dragon with the mantra while I went off to other realms, observing, oh, the dragon's still quiet. The mantra's still working. It's lulled and it's quiet. And I can go and see these other realms and places, and the dragon is still quiet. You know, so
a chattering voice in your head is.
And you begin to observe
Yeah.
the stillness of the chatterer, that it's become quiet. And in my experience, the mantra is the most effective way. When I was a little girl, my grandmother taught me breathing as a child, and I found that it
as a focal point for meditation.
Yes. When I was I think she began with me about 7, 8 years old, teaching me that, and it felt very familiar to me, actually. And she asked me at one point to demonstrate how I would pray, and I'd never been shown. And I immediately followed a Buddhist practice, bearing in mind I was a child who'd never been exposed to Buddhism at that point.
Oh, wow.
Not in any way, shape, or form. So I remembered it. And meditation is the same thing. It's like remembering the connection. And the more we remember the connection, the more familiar the path, the more readily available and more easily accessible this path becomes, which we call the mathematical connection.
Yes, which we will talk about some more.
Right, which is the math, the logical mind, the story, the 3D physical, aligning with the magic, which is the spirit, that eternal aspect, oh, that's a terrible way to put it, aspect of ourselves, the be-all.
The be-all, end-all.
Of who and what we are. It's not an aspect, it's totally
I know what you meant.
It's the Shazam. I really want to be clear. So meditation allows for that connection, and I find myself using the mantra, for example, so that I didn't, strangle my kids. I was a single mom with 2 kids, 2 very intelligent kids, and I didn't want to strangle them, so I would use the mantra.
Yeah.
And I found that a mantra, as opposed to breathing, became very helpful for a very intelligent, active mind. Okay, so for a lot of us that are really intelligent, and you're one of them, your mind is constantly going. You're just like a human.
I try to slow it down.
Sometimes, sometimes and not so much. Sometimes good, sometimes and not so much. So when it happens like that, we don't want the mind to spin too much, because then we go too deeply into the math and we forget the magic.
We get too caught in the story. The
logical, the chronological, the lists, the rules.
Yeah, I get stuck in that a lot.
Well, welcome to being human, right? Like, who didn't get stuck in it? And I can still get stuck in it. I've just mastered not getting stuck in it as often as I used to. It just gets better and better, really, if we practice. So the mantra I found to be a really effective way, and then the main discipline becomes staying focused on the mantra. Because a lot of us, it's like, oh, meditation doesn't work for me. My mind wanders. Everybody's dragon is going to wander.
Yeah.
It's a 2-year-old. It's what it's going to do. The name of the game is to
come back, keep coming back. And then, like we started this, is through that practice, that's what gives you that ability to let go and enjoy the moment. Like you talked about the story with the lasagna, if there's no mundane tasks. And meditation is a great way to keep that tool tuned and yourself aligned so that you can see that, live that way. Well,
I want to be very careful with my languaging. We are moving towards a state of living meditation. And this is also where we become a living channel. which you know
with
is
your eyes open kind of
right.
thing. Yeah.
Exactly. We're in tune. We're connected all the time. So for anybody who might be familiar with Edgar Cayce, he was one of the original, he was called the Sleeping Prophet.
Oh, okay. I've never heard of him.
He would essentially lay down and begin to channel while he physically was unconscious. The channel would move through him and people recorded. And there's a great deal of history. And I encourage people as a really great investigation point is Edgar Cayce, the Sleeping Prophet. But he needed to be unconscious in order to transmit the information. And what we're seeing is that humanity has evolved to a point now where we no longer need to be unconscious in order to receive this level of information, as you well know from being with me. So I am not needing to sleep. I'm live. I'm a live channel, not a live prophet, not a sleeping one. And so this is what humanity overall, this is what we are all evolving to, remembering and awakening that we are actually all that channel. That's the mathematical channel. Connection complete. And meditation is required in order to create this path first by free will. You have to choose to do so by free will.
Yeah.
And then through repetition, it becomes more familiar. And then the channel is open. It's like a well-worn pathway through the forest you could walk through in the dark. I mean, I love being in nature, and there's many paths that I've walked that I could walk at night. I was doing it last night because I know that path so well that we can do it with our eyes closed. And that's the name of the game. That's when the magic really starts to flow. That's when we get guided in every moment and every aspect. And I'm sure you could speak to that.
Yeah, for sure. But before we go any further, let's talk a little bit about intuitive gifts and your abilities and such, because a lot of people, myself included, when I first heard about the idea of people having intuitive gifts or extrasensory abilities, it was outside my realm of understanding. It was something that I had never encountered before, and so it was very new to me. So for probably a lot of people listening to someone like yourself might be new to them, maybe not for other people, but what are intuitive gifts and intuitive sensitivities, and how do you explain that to people?
Oh, wow.
Big question.
Okay, breathe. Ask for help. Okay, well, that's a big, big subject, so I'll just give it a Cole's Notes, and I have to say by no means is it going to be complete, so please don't nail me to the cross for this. Intuitive sensitivities, as I would describe them, are essentially the awakened connection between ourselves and our creative source.
So when you connect to your source, these gifts come?
To our source.
To our source.
We don't have a separate source, each of us. It's the same source that we're experiencing separately.
Okay.
So the intuitive connection for me means that channel is open, that pathway is open, and as such, we are given information that cannot be perceived through the physical senses, but which can be perceived through the physical body. So you won't see, hear, taste, touch, or smell, per se, the information I get, but I do receive the information through the body. I receive it in different ways. So, for example, if I'm walking past a woman and she's pregnant, and I may or may not be able to see that she's pregnant, if it's a female child, the right side of my body will tingle. If it's a male child, the left side of my body will tingle. If I'm in the company of someone that I can't trust, that I don't feel safe with, my heart will tighten and my solar plexus will clench. Now, these are intuitive sensitivities that we're all experiencing all the time, but we don't recognize them for what they are, and therefore most of us don't know how to tune into them, or that we ought to tune into them, we want to.
Are they different for every person?
No, not really. In some ways, yes, especially when it comes to heightened sensitivities, becoming channel, empath, that sort of thing. Those sensitivities will move through at an individual's sort of expression way. So, for example, the way I receive intuitive information, say, from my empathic abilities, may not be exactly the same for other people.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so the individual is always individual. Like for some people, they may be able to feel the gender of a child, the male or female energy, but not feel it the same way in their body that I do.
Okay.
It may come in a different way. So we have multiple intuitive sensitivities. For example, the first one is telepathy. We are all born telepathic, all of us. It is our first language. And it is actually telepathic, the connection between mother, and also will develop very quickly with father if the father stays close to the child. So men who are experiencing a partner who's carrying a child, speak to your child, speak to the belly, talk to the belly, speak to your child, build that bond, build that connection. Be there when the child enters the world, and the child will benefit from this telepathic connection with both parents.
Is that the same thing as like intuition telepathy?
Well, we would call
You could call it the
telepathy
same
an
thing?
intuitive sensitivity, yes.
Okay.
And telepathy is the first one. Now, we're programmed to lose this. Okay? We're programmed to forget that it's even there. And another intuitive sensitivity that'll happen for mothers is if a mother is breastfeeding, you could have 30 mothers visiting in a room and 30 babies in the room. 10 of those babies are hungry and begin to cry. The 10 mothers whose babies begin to cry, amidst the cacophony of 10 crying babies, the mother whose baby begins to cry will find that her milk will let down to begin to prepare to feed her baby, which her body has intuitively sensed is one of the 10.
So that's like a telepathy kind of thing,
It
or
is
a
an
connection of some
intuitive
sort?
sense,
Yeah.
yes. And it's very helpful to understand that everything is energy. Everything is energy. And I encourage people to watch Avatar to have a better understanding of what I'm talking about. And an intuitive person is someone who's developed to some degree or another the ability to read these energy systems, the animal kingdom, the elemental kingdom, the physical kingdom, the mental kingdom, the vibratory kingdom that connects us all. Okay, so I have certain intuitive sensitivities that are developed, that are heightened, that were so when I was born and my birth was predicted, that are now here to serve and support mankind in awakening to the truth of who and what we really are. And it's through these intuitive sensitivities that we grow and expand. And it begins slowly at first, baby steps. You can't climb a ladder from the top rung first.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that I've been working with you now for, I think 4 years. It's 4 years. Wow. Yeah. So 4 years ago, for everybody, I got gifted a session with you from my agent, and she said, here's a gift. I had done her a favor. I brought some friends of hers to the set, and she said, I want to thank you. I'm going to give you a session with Lynette. And I said, oh, okay. What's this all about? My agent said, oh, well, you'll have fun, and she has some extra abilities that I'm not going to tell you much more. So she didn't really tell me a lot. So I had a session with you. We did it over Skype, and you told me lots of things about life, lots of things about my life that I knew no one else could know. And it was the first rung of the ladder. It was the first sort of step in this journey. And I recorded that call, and I listened to it multiple times afterwards, because you would say so many things, and I would be like, it was flying so fast, and I couldn't integrate it all at once. And I wasn't meant to integrate it all at once.
No, and that's the thing. When you're working with a true channel, with a true teacher, sometimes, for me, the information does come through very quickly. So I encourage people to record it.
Yeah, and which is great, because you listen back to it and you go, what did she say? And then even in listening back to it, weeks later or months later, I would be like, oh my gosh, you said this, and it's a new meaning now, or it's a deeper meaning now, a new understanding of it. So that's the gift that you give people, is working with people like myself and other people from all over the world, connecting with them, reading their energy, correct me if I'm wrong, seeing their picture of their life, and giving them tools and understandings of age-old principles like integrity.
Well, integrity isn't a principle. Integrity.
What would you call it?
Integrity is the core of who and what we are. Integrity is to be whole, to be complete, and to be the whole, complete truth. So integrity, I would say, is the path to inner awareness, to the heightened intuitive sensitivities. Integrity is the path we must travel, the way in which we must travel the path to awaken, to remember who and what we really are. We don't have to learn who we are. We have to learn how to remember. And when we remember with integrity, it will happen with an ease and a flow.
Mm-hmm. And that was something that I was new to. It was a new thing. I my mom would always tell me, be honest and, don't lie and these type of things. But the concept of integrity and really diving into it and understanding it and understanding how pivotal it is.
Well, it actually bridges
was something that you taught me.
Well, it is. It's imperative, and you'll, I'm sure, agree with me that integrity is the connection for intuitive sensitivities. The more integrity that we have, the more integrity a channel, a clairvoyant, a medium, empath, telepath has, the more clarity they have. So you yourself have seen, I don't know how many times, perhaps you could tell me, how many times I've known things in advance. Mm-hmm. Including events we were discussing this morning that very clearly, I knew in advance. Integrity allows me to see that information more quickly, more effectively, more openly, and greater amounts of it. So if let's look at it this way. Would you give the keys to your house to a burglar?
No, probably not.
Right. I wouldn't either. And neither does the source of who and what we are. So, for example, this is going to be difficult for the people listening, but for yourself, let's do this by proxy. Could you imagine what would happen if just anybody with any level of awareness, and perhaps completely lacking honesty or integrity, and honesty is a component of integrity, lacking integrity completely, what would happen if they had the sensitivities that I do and they lacked integrity?
They would probably use it for personal gain or manipulation or control.
And what is the level of damage that could be done? Given just using there are many that have sensitivities awakened as I do. I am not alone. Again, I'm the normal one. We're all designed to be this way. But take, for example, the level of insight that I have, the level of, let's say, security clearance.
Okay,
I've been given.
Yeah.
That level of security clearance allows me to read into people very deeply, in very subtle ways, that if
anybody had it, it'd be dangerous.
It would be evil.
So
destructive.
The way this works, that the more integrity you have, the more security clearance you get.
The more you're allowed to see, but not because you tell the story that says, oh, yeah, I can be trusted. No.
You demonstrate it.
You walk it.
Yeah.
You talk it. You live it. You be it. And then that allows us, remember, the keys to the kingdom are vibratory. They're not intellectual. They're not physical. That's a lie. They're vibratory. So when you're in the company of somebody that you describe for me what you would feel if you were in the company of someone that you just intuitively knew, again, those extra senses, okay, that feeling, that gut feeling, that knowing, that idea, that flash, that vision that just dropped in. We need to start to tune into this stuff. So have you ever met somebody that, when you met them, it was like, oh, I just don't feel good about this?
Oh, yeah. I keep my distance and I'll just kind of like steer away as much as I can.
Yeah, but they might be really shiny and pretty and, and give you no reason visually, and they may even be selling a really sweet song. But something tells you.
Yeah. I mean, I might hang out a bit, but then it's kind of like, if I get I call it vibes. I'm like bad vibes. I'm just like, I'll just kind of like
that's exactly
shrink
what
away.
It is.
Just be like,
it's
I'm going to go over here.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And that is actually your higher self guiding you through the intuitive system to get away from this person that is a quote unquote bad vibe. Now, there's no good or bad or right or wrong, but what you're trying to say is somebody that wouldn't be for your higher good.
Yeah.
Somebody perhaps you couldn't trust.
Yeah.
So intuitive sensitivities at the initial stages and for what most people are experiencing now are going to look like things like hunches, nigglies, a gut feeling, or my spidey senses.
What did you call it? You have a name for it, jiggy jiggy or something?
When I was a little girl, I'd get good jiggy jiggy and bad jiggy jiggy.
Yeah.
So if I got good jiggy jiggy, I'd move towards it, and if I got bad jiggy jiggy, essentially my body inside would and still does. It's just very, very clear to me now. It sort of would like wiggle in a good way or wiggle in a negative way, and I'd get a feeling in my solar plexus that wiggled good or wiggled bad. And so I still use that now. And the more we tune into that, and this is something that can be so underestimated because it's so subtle but so profound, is tuning into that niggly. And then when we tune into it, a lot of us don't know what to do with it. Or we may not have the courage, the conviction, the tools, the strength, the know-how to do what it's asking us to do. Say, for example, stand up for truth. Stand up for what unites. Stand up and speak up when you see someone else being harmed or, hurt, when innocence is being disrespected. Kindness is being disrespected or hurt, harmed in any way.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because I know for myself, anger has been something that comes when you see somebody being hurt or an injustice. You get angry. I get angry. And, in my past, anger was something that really overtook me, and it was so all-encompassing and so much energy. It was not to be expressed. My operating system was, this is dangerous. Put this away because someone could get hurt. And so I never expressed it, and I never understood how to channel it. And that's something that you've worked with me on and helped me with. And you even sent me to a breathwork session, which I had never done before, to breathe and do this breathwork to work on expressing anger. And it was so powerful and scary at first, but then, man, it felt so good and grounding. So can you talk a bit about...
And what about the other experience that you had where you went out to release some of the anger? We'll talk about that one in a minute. We'll
yeah, I can share that too. That's a good story too.
Well, that's a good funny story. I'd like to talk about anger, and please understand, this also qualifies for doubt and fear. Anger, doubt, and fear. We have rational stuff and we have irrational stuff. Okay? The rational stuff is essentially going to be, hey, I'm angry that you are harming innocence, or that you're trying to harm me, and that anger rises up to protect us. Okay? And that's rational anger, and that is the kind that we do want to be in touch with, we do want to express, we do want to listen to. Then we've got also examples of irrational fear and doubt. So say, for example, I'll give an example of a rational anger.
Irrational, not irrational.
Yeah, irrational.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about rational anger and irrational
anger.
Yeah,
okay, just clarifying, because it's very close sounding.
Exactly. What's your point? Okay. So rational anger is something that is designed to protect us. Okay? So an example would be someone tries to harm your child. As a father, your rational anger will rise up to protect your child. Then when it's taken care of, the rational anger will dissipate, as will the same for fear and doubt that is rational. It's like, I doubt I can jump off this cliff without, a parasail, strap the parasail on, the doubt goes away, or decide not to jump without a parachute, and the doubt will go away. The same for fear. I'm afraid that I can't make this jump out of the plane without a parachute. I decide not to jump, or I strap on a parachute. The fear will either dissipate or go away altogether. Irrational stuff is essentially the monkey mind giving us an excuse, a reason, picking up a story, a resentment, and telling us that we should be angry. And this is the kind that's toxic, this kind of doubt, fear, and anger that is irrational. It's fed by the monkey mind, and it's the kind of thing that says, oh, I'm offended, and now I'm really angry, and I'm never going to speak to her again. Did you hear what she said to me? And
it would repeat in the mind over and over and over again.
She was very, very nasty, and she was very rude to me, and now I'm never going to talk to her again. And it's like, really? In actuality, she wasn't rude. She was having a really bad day. She couldn't speak to you because she was going to burst in tears, and she ran into her car because she just found out her dog died. And you're in a public place. That's irrational. Irrational doubt, fear, and anger are something that we need to take a very clear look at right now. We need to start to challenge it with common sense and ask ourselves, is this rational or irrational? Is this my monkey mind trying to take me on a big, long Looney Tune trip that's going to drain me, create separation, And the main thing is that irrational stuff drains us. It keeps us...
So a good way to tell. Is it draining you?
Yes. Versus true anger. So, for example, I recall one day I was at Hastings, on Hastings in Vancouver. And across the street, I was waiting at a stoplight with a friend of mine. And across the street, I was witnessing a mother dragging her child along and saying very derogatory things to the child, like, you're stupid, and swearing and things like that. And it was like, oh, whoa. That white light rose up in me, and my friend, who knew me very well, immediately stepped out of my way. She sussed what was happening real quick. And I immediately walked across the street, and I took control of my anger because it was designed to be protective. So that doesn't mean that you harm another to protect another. So I walked over to the mother, and I said in a very hushed, controlled voice, because the anger was rising in me, very powerful to protect this child. And I said to her, please stop speaking that way. You're harming him. And I implored her with my eyes. She immediately stopped, and I felt her energy drop. And then I looked at the little boy and I said, please don't listen to mommy when she talks like that. You are beautiful. And the mother went on in silence. Her energy dropped, and the little boy followed me with his eyes as far as she could while she pulled him away. Now, I didn't confront her in a way that was necessarily going to cause her to be defensive.
Right.
But I did ask her to please take a moment coming from an impassioned place.
Wow.
Okay? The same thing, in an experience that I had with fear. And I've told you this story before. It's out there. I came home to my apartment one day, and a man was sitting there watching one of the 3 channels on the TV we had for my son's Nintendo and drinking beer, which I don't even have in my house, ever. I looked at him and I said, he was a very large man, muscly, all that, and about half his size. And I looked at him and I said, excuse me, can I help you? I'm like, what are you doing in my apartment?
Yeah.
And next thing I knew, he was on his feet. And he had a gutting knife for hunting at my throat. And interestingly, I didn't go into fear. I stayed very calm, and I looked him in the eye and said, you have no reason to fear me. And he dropped his knife, and he dropped to his knees, and he burst into tears. I dropped him off at the psychiatric hospital. He ended up doing some time in jail. And after he got out, he left a note on the windshield of my car because there was a restraining order, thanking me for handling it that way, that it had given him time while he was in jail to think about what he'd done, and he could transcend as a result, because I didn't let the irrational mind tell a story that would have made that happen. And if I'd gone into fear, I would have fed him.
Yeah.
But because I was grounded, because I practiced bookending, grounding and crowning, dropping a grounding cord to let the negativity go and opening my crown to receive the light, that I live in a state that's essentially, God willing, topped up so that I can handle these situations and remain present when most of us, without the training, without the practice, without the know-how, without the keys, will fall into fear, which just doubt and anger, which perpetuates more. So understanding the difference between irrational and rational. Rational comes from the calm, clear, present mind. Irrational comes from the reactionary, triggered ego state.
Mm-hmm.
There are no exceptions. It doesn't mean that you can't be passionate about something while you're angry. It just doesn't become explosive. And you've seen me angry a few times, but I don't become,
Yeah, I think it's maybe it's my, Canadianness, or, Canadians are known to be very kind and pleasing and such. But I always found anger as something that was frowned upon. Someone gets angry and it's like, why are you doing that? Like, you're disturbing the peace. You should just be kind and nice.
Well, it's social conditioning. Okay, little girls are made of sugar and spice and everything nice. And that sets us up for abuse because we're not allowed to speak up. As a girl, it was, unladylike.
Right.
You shouldn't, you were a quote unquote bitch. I don't even like that word, as you know, I don't use it. So I've made an acronym, BABE, in total control of herself. Yes. Okay. But this is it. And if we see examples around us, especially while we're growing up, where someone could not control their irrational anger, or even rational anger sometimes if we don't learn to control it, okay? It comes from a good place, a protective place, but we need to learn to control it.
Wield it, yeah.
Exactly, like fire.
Yeah.
Okay, fire has the capacity to, warm your house and keep you alive all winter and cook your food, or burn the whole thing down.
Yeah.
Our anger is the same thing, and it's very helpful to see it that way. It's a very, very powerful tool.
But so many people think, it could burn down the house, so just no fire in the house, no fire at all.
Right, so shut it off, and now we freeze, and we have no protection, and we're cold, and we have no food.
Yeah.
So we don't have that rational anger to protect us. So a lot of us are going to need to challenge the ideas that we were given about it, especially if we had religious training. Now, and by no means am I disrespecting religion in any way. It's a necessary part of our evolution, and there's certainly a lot of really good things about it. However, there's, as in every case here in our experience, also shadow. And a part of the shadow about religion was that, and as much as the narrative that we're taught today politically, is be quiet, don't speak up. By no means are you to get in touch with your rational anger, because when people start to get angry, especially rational anger, you start to see change.
Mm-hmm.
When people start to step up and say, you know what? This is not doing anyone any good. This is not helping anyone. This is harming. So rational anger recognizes when we're being taught separation from our hearts, separation from our health, separation from wisdom, separation from each other, separation from love.
Common sense.
Common sense has vacated many people's minds these days. Okay, it's essentially that rational anger that fires us back up to get in touch with these protective tools to guide us in a physical 3D reality that, let's face it, can be very dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Disorienting.
Wake up and smell the coffee, kids.
Yeah.
And that anger, when used correctly for alignment, impassioned plea for light and love, begins to transmute.
What do you mean by that? Transmute?
It will take a situation and transmute it.
Transmute
For example,
the situation. Okay.
When I spoke to that mother, she didn't scream back at me. Now, I didn't expect us to be able to sit and have a heart-to-heart talk on the street while she was obviously in a hurry and I was on my way as well. But it did transmute the situation to a degree that it transfused it enough. It transmuted enough. It translated it to a place where she wasn't still shouting at him and calling him names.
Mm.
Baby steps.
Mm-hmm.
It at least gave her a moment to cause and pause.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'd gone at her with irrational anger or hostile anger or anger that was righteous that said, I'm right and you're wrong,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to anger that says, please join me. Don't be this way. It separates us. I will not join you in this place. I don't need to disrespect you or shut you down. I don't want to bully you. I don't want to control you. I'm asking you passionately, please, to listen to your own heart.
I find that it's hard sometimes when I get angry not to because it stirs inside of you, and it's like it's really hot. It's not a comfortable feeling for that anger to come up, and then I've found that it's difficult to not judge or attack that person because my brain thinks it's their fault that they brought it up. So to not make it personal, you know what I'm saying? To be in that situation and to not attack that mom personally, but to say what you're doing is not okay.
Well, indeed, and I wasn't attacking her personally,
right?
on
And that's
any
very
level,
difficult to
because
do.
I understand, that she had to be taught this behavior herself, and it was most likely how she was treated. So she needed love just as much as the child.
Mm.
So my anger was not designed to attack, to control, to power over. It was transmuted into passion for truth, for love, for unity. This is the difference between a warrior on a battlefield that's fighting for his loved ones and his village. He's going to be far more powerful than one that's being paid.
Mm-hmm.
And people may want to remember that. Okay, because when we're coming from a place of unity, a place of love, we actually gain power through that mathematical connection. Our divine source doesn't say never be angry. It says, be careful how you wield it. You will need it. I suggest you get comfortable with it. And as our anger starts to rise up, like yourself, you experienced, as you started to let it come up, it feels uncomfortable, and our knee-jerk response is going to be to shut it down. And this is where other practices like meditation and some others we can talk about allow us to stay in that uncomfortable space, to let this new experience, this learning curve happen.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's like a spiritual gym. You need to go through it and learn how to train your system to
do
process.
something it was taught not to do, but which you're innately designed to do. So it can happen quickly. So one of the ways that we can do that is with a new thought that says, my feelings are not good or bad or right or wrong, because they aren't.
They just are.
They just are what they are.
Yeah.
So my feelings are not going to be good or bad or right or wrong unless I make them that.
Mm-hmm. The judgment of them.
I get to choose.
Yeah.
I get to choose. And if this anger is rational anger, then I'm going to express it. And I'm going to take responsibility for being a sovereign being. I'm going to be self-governing. I'm going to be self-regulating. And I'm going to recognize that now karma comes into it. That wheel of unconscious behavior. Now, there's no such thing as good karma and bad karma. There is karma, which is the unconscious wheel of behavior that repeats itself, generating negative experiences.
Okay.
That we think are punishment under certain belief systems.
But it's just an unconscious pattern.
It's an unconscious pattern that we choose. So say I chose to go at that mother, angry, righteous, thinking she was bad and wrong. I then incur for myself what I will call a karmic debt, an unconscious pattern of behavior that led to separation, which is what karma is. It leads to separation from who and what we are, as opposed to the opposite of karma, which is freedom. So I was able to express that anger in a way that created unity, which would keep me free, not incur a debt because I spent it negatively.
If you incur that debt, if you were to spend it, go in that and
choose to aim my energy
and choose
negatively
at her, and so you re-incur that and you create this karma. How do you then clear that? Through another scenario like that, and then you just do it properly?
Well, it's a wheel. It's a wheel of experience. So the karmic wheel will repeat the cycle of that behavior choice in your day-to-day story until you choose to release it through a different behavior choice, which is, okay, I scream and attack you last time. It created more separation. We can't talk, versus I can remain passionate. And you and I have been there. We've had passionate talks. And I've been able to remain passionate, speaking my truth without attacking you or power over, even in my energy. I become a self-contained unit. If I decided to unleash the Kraken, so to speak, and flood the capacity for power and passion and anger that I have, I would flatten you.
But that would be the karmic debt that you would incur.
And I would have a very big debt to pay.
Right.
So essentially speaking, we want to learn to control our anger, our fear, and our doubt. Recognize whether it's rational, tune into it, hone it to become a productive tool for transmutation and change, or recognize that it will own us and take us on that karmic wheel of experience over and over again, experiencing the same choices until we consciously choose of our own free will to stop the pattern, take responsibility for the pattern, own it and say, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. Maybe I want to do that differently. Bring a little humor here. Very, very helpful, and go, oh, was I ever a ding-dong? It's going to be a lot easier to release that than if you judge yourself and beat yourself up. Instead, remember who you are. Remember, the fastest path to enlightenment is loving self-care. The simplest path is to remember who you are simultaneously. So I'm going to love whatever rises up and remember that I'm here to transmute if it creates disharmony, and I'm here to expand it if it creates harmony. Irrational doubt, fear, and anger will create separation. Rational fear, doubt, and anger will protect, serve, support, and unite.
This reminds me of conversations we've had about if you have a relationship that repeats. You find yourself, you're in one relationship, it doesn't go well, these things are happening, and you think, I'm just going to change partners, or I'm going to change jobs for, that's another instance where people...
Geographical cure.
Right? You try and jump to another one thinking it's this, but it's actually the karmic, like you're saying, this karmic wheel or this unconscious pattern behavior that you haven't healed. You haven't taken responsibility for, or whatever the case may be. And so you just find a new job or a new partner to then mirror it back to you.
Right. And
so you can learn it again.
Geographical cure. Change your location, change, right? Or distract yourself further. I'd like to address the word heal.
Okay.
And I'm going to encourage people to let that go.
Why do you say that?
Because I feel it's more accurate to say we're imbalanced, out of balance, or in balance. In or out of balance. We're not sick. We're not bad. We're not wrong. We're in balance and we've remembered who and what we are.
Yeah.
Or we're out of balance and we have forgotten who and what we are. If we're out of balance, you'll be experiencing the negative side of the spectrum, the karmic wheel of lack of awareness. You're trapped in that cycle. If we're in balance and we are moving towards remembering who and what we are, again, it happens in stages. You can't climb a ladder from the top rung first. If we're moving towards that, we will experience balance, harmony, expansion, and unity to a greater and greater degree, sometimes in baby steps, sometimes in quantum leaps, every day, every moment of every day. So essentially saying we're sick or we're bad or we're wrong,
I was thinking of more of like hurt, if you were hurt or if there's something that's hurt inside.
Hurt is also a judgment, because at the highest level of awareness, we aren't hurt. We choose to be hurt. We may feel hurt and feel the need to now lay a boundary. We may be hurt by someone else's behavior, but we can choose to take it personally and remain hurt, or we can recognize that it is a reflection of the other person, perhaps their lack of awareness, their lack of concern, their lack of caring may be a sign to you to say, hey, you know what, this person doesn't actually care about you. And you can continuously notice that they disrespect you and feel hurt and stay in it and wallow in it. Repeat the karmic cycle, lack of awareness, behavior choice, or say, I've noticed that this person is either consciously or unconsciously choosing to hurt me, to do things that are unkind, selfish, cruel. And I can ask myself, is it this person's nature? If it isn't their nature, don't take it personally at all at any time. But if it isn't their nature, definitely don't take it personally. It might just be a bad day. Cut them some slack. We got to cut each other the slack we seek. We're going through a lot. So we can be hurt because we take it personally and we perpetuate the story, or we can be hurt because genuinely a boundary was crossed that says you're no longer safe. Either way, we choose to hold on to this and see it as bad or wrong, that we're hurt. We're not actually hurt. We're actually being given an opportunity.
Yeah, on the surface, you feel hurt.
You will feel hurt, and you have to acknowledge that, and you have to care for that part of yourself. Again, loving self-care is the fastest path to enlightenment, but simultaneously remember who and what you are, which is an energy being who's here to master energy and emotion. And the idea of being hurt is one that can only exist from the ego perspective.
When you're really wrapped up in the story, you're caught in the feelings.
Yes.
Which, if you're not taking that time to meditate, if you're not taking that time for yourself, is much easier to fall into. It's much easier to be identified with being hurt or offended or, all these different things.
Yes. Well, you can't offend me without my permission. I have to choose to take offense.
I love that one. You said that very early on in our sessions together, that I think I said something like that to you. I said, I don't want to offend you. And you said, oh, what did you say? I don't give people permission or something like that?
Yeah, what makes you think I'm going to give you permission to do that?
And I'd never heard anyone say that before. And that was something that, that's the world we live in, is where people are like, you've offended me, therefore you've crossed a line. But you're choosing to be offended.
Yes.
To take offense.
As opposed to consider the source. I love it when someone says, oh, I need to say something, but I don't want to offend you. Then I'm like, well, then don't say it. And if you think it's going to be offensive, then reevaluate. What is it that you're trying to share? A lot of the times when people are saying things that are offensive, it's simply their opinion. It's their perspective. Big woo-ha. It doesn't actually mean anything.
Yeah.
My opinion and bus fare is going to get you a ride on the bus downtown. Mm-hmm. It's not going to matter one bit if you don't give it that value. So consider the source makes it a lot easier to let go of things and not take them personally. Mm-hmm. Maybe the person's having a bad day, or, lo and behold, there may also be that one, which is, you know what? I did something that was unkind. I was inconsiderate. I wasn't loving. I didn't consider this person. And now I'm simply going to take responsibility for that because I don't really want to do that. It was maybe an oversight on my part. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe I'm tuned out. And because it's not really how I want to live, I'm going to own it and transmute it that way. Mm-hmm. So don't take it personally. If you do, let it go. Remember who you are, that you can only take things personally if you choose to. Otherwise, let it go. And if you're noticing that someone is doing something repeatedly, a pattern that causes you to feel hurt again and again, you may want to reevaluate the boundary on that relationship and ask whether that's, a healthy, safe place for you to be so much, or a healthy, safe place for you to be at all.
Yeah, which is difficult because when you have lots of time together, maybe it's a group of friends, a partner, a job, and you have history, it's difficult sometimes to make a change, even though it's for the best, because this is not healthy, this is draining you, but because there's so much familiarity.
Well, there'll be a number of reasons, not just familiarity. We can also be harboring irrational fears, doubt, and anger. We can be locked into patterns about changing, or what it would mean if we change, or we could be people-pleasing and over-functioning and think that if I leave this person, they're going to fall apart, and I can't have them fall apart. And, well, then you're over-functioning, essentially. That's what can also be called codependence, and you've now decided that you're responsible for that person's feelings, and we're not. So that's about a whole other area of growth that we need to embrace in order to be able to do that. Again, I've talked about circular learning when it comes to awakening to who and what we are. It is not a chronological linear path. which is one of the things the monkey mind's been taught. It goes in a circular pattern, back and forth and all around. And you need to kind of go over here to get that, to understand this. And you can't move forward on that until you understand that. And when we surrender to that intuitive connection, that path becomes clear. We get guided to that next step. Divine Source will say, okay, she's learned this. Now she needs to learn that. He's learned that. Now we're going to bring in his story and his experience, what he needs to learn this. And then the perfect character is going to come along to offer him an opportunity to clear that karmic debt that, he unconsciously laid back in Italy 5 years ago and, or 5 lifetimes ago back in Rome.
Right.
Again, we live many lifetimes and the tally just rolls forward. Another conversation.
I know there's so many more topics and things that I wanted to ask you about and just talk about because I find them so fascinating. I've learned so much from you. And so I have more, but we'll have to save that for another podcast. Right now, I wanted to kind of talk about, first I want to ask you my magic painting question. And also to wrap up, I want to talk about our project that we've worked on together called Mathemagical. So this magic painting, I've asked you this question before. Maybe you can change it. Maybe there's a new feeling.
It won't change.
Okay. Well, then share for everybody what you shared with me previously about your magic painting. If you had it on the wall and you could look at it and explain it to people as if they were completely foreign to this feeling that you would want to feel every time you looked at it.
Okay. So what was your question?
Sorry, the question is, if you had a painting on the wall and you looked at that painting and you could feel any feeling you wanted to feel, what feeling would you choose? What color would you have on that painting? And then to help people understand who have never felt that feeling before, just, give some examples or explanation in your body so that they can really tune into what it is that you want to feel.
Right. So yes, it was white and peace. Empowered homeostasis. The peace that I'm talking about is being in the balanced state, knowing who and what we are. Homeostasis, really. So empowered homeostasis, that kind of peace. The kind of peace that is power. The kind of peace that is pure calm, but not passive.
Oh, interesting.
It's powerful and ready to move. It's in a conscious be here now, ready to respond state.
Wow.
Allowing the color to be whatever it needs to be. White, of course, being who and what we are, pure white light, which also accompanies peace for me.
See, that's not something I would link to peace. Peace, for me, I've always seen it as something very relaxed, but you're talking about a peace that is ready.
A peace that is, you could say it like this, the way to peace is through peace. So in order to experience empowered homeostasis, true peace, to live in that stillness in the conscious waking moment, we have to surrender. We have to surrender to the process, again, the karmic wheel, to release anything that causes disharmony, to have the ability to do that. We become empowered. We awaken to the truth of who and what we are when we understand how to achieve peace, to transmute, to transcend.
And it's powerful.
It's pure power.
Wow.
It's pure power.
Wow. And your painting could be white. It could be something else. It could change.
Well, it will remain white, but it may change if the story needs to change, I suppose, but not really, no, because for me, true peace, that empowered homeostatic state, the state of balance, is white, like nothingness. It's pure. What would you like it to be? Your canvas is pure and white. What would you like it to be? And you can make it
almost
anything
like potential.
you want.
Pure potential possibilities.
From the empowered homeostatic state.
Beautiful.
From the empowered state. And you yourself experience this much of your time now.
This piece?
Yes.
Yeah.
You're moving towards it.
But I've never heard you explain it this way before.
So
this is great.
Look at yourself 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Go back to that first session. What did peace feel like? Give yourself a moment to go back. And what did peace feel like to you then?
It was more calm. It was calm and grounded, and less anxiety. I had a lot of anxiety in my life, tension, and so peace was about just letting that go and just being in the moment and grounded.
Right, And now, do you not still feel that grounded, calm space, but with a hint of power? The power that comes from that observatory place, that place to react.
Yeah, well, when you said that, I was like, whoa, that's a great
to move from
feeling, to be in that place of peace, but then power.
But to leap from there.
Yeah, to be able to be ready to leap
from there, but to like a reaction.
Yeah.
You react from that balanced place, no longer from a fearful place. So remember, intention is everything. And that empowered homeostatic state is one that embraces integrity. This is where we are whole. We are our complete self.
Beautiful. I love that.
Me too.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure.
Let's talk a little bit about Mathemagical now. This is a project we've been working on together, and it's just starting to come out. Some people are talking about it now online. We've done a soft launch.
They've been leaking it on us. We could thank a few people out there.
But they've been enjoying it and really sending some positive feedback.
Very good, yes. Very grateful. Very grateful for the feedback. I got to say that. You know, we've had so much support to create this. Yeah. To create this transcendent, it's being called. Fantastic, phenomenal.
Yeah, we're writing the reviews ourselves.
No, these are quotes. I mean, I've been sharing this with you as we've been getting it. You know that it really is something really, really magical that we've created together for sure.
Yeah, so it's called Mathemagical, and it started as an audiobook, something that you said that you wanted to do, and I offered to help.
Oh, I was told to do.
You were told to do. That's right.
That's right. This, yes. In a dream state, in a dream. In a dream.
And the name came to you, and this is something that we use my podcast studio for, to record this. And it became not just an audio book, because it isn't a book. It's
a journey.
A journey or experience, with meditations and music and sound effects and different things that I was really grateful that you allowed me to be creative in and, add that to the experience, because it was really fun for me to create that along with what you were channeling, what you were bringing into this.
Oh, we did have a lot of fun, didn't we? I can't wait till we get the bloopers. The bloopers are going to be so good. Oh my God. But you got to sense a lot of the bloopers.
Yeah,
there was some frustrating moments when we were making that book, a lot of hours. Yeah, I remember my butt being numb from sitting so long.
Yeah, we did a lot of walking around and stuff to get some exercise too, to keep it, because it's a lot of sitting down recording. But yeah, so I wanted to share with everybody, Mathemagical is out now. You can pick it up on mathemagical.com. There'll be a link in the show notes or below this video. You can click on it, you can go check it out. And I'll play a little trailer for everybody to listen to. So I will play that now.
What if you found out you were playing a game? Every moment of every day of your entire life. Some of us have remembered that we're playing a game, while most of us have yet to remember. If you don't know that you're playing a game, then you are most definitely being played. You are being played, used, and preyed upon by those who play the game in the dark. To win your freedom and take back your power, you must consciously choose to play. This game is your birthright. This game is a divine honor and privilege to play. You must consciously choose to play the game that is your destiny.
That's it, guys. That is the first couple minutes of Mathemagical. So that's what you'll hear when you start listening to the book, and that is our little teaser for everybody to get a taste of what it's like.
And I think you ought to share your brilliant method for sharing the audio journey.
Oh, right. Well, it's not my method, but it was a discovery of sorts, because we had talked about how best to share this audiobook, whether it be a file download off your website, off mathemagical.com, or would it be something through Amazon or Apple
And did they have to have
audiobooks
Wi-Fi access?
Yeah, being able to listen offline and all these different things. So for everybody listening, so you know, this audio experience will be delivered in the format of a podcast, and each chapter of the book will be an episode of the podcast. So if you're familiar with podcasts, most Apple iPhones and such have the podcast app there. So it'd be very easy. Once you click buy, it'll ask you which app you want to use. You can select Apple Podcasts. Up you go. There you go. It's all loaded. And you can click to download the episode so you can listen to it offline and see all episodes, see all the chapters. And then if you're on an Android device or your laptop or whatever, you'll also have other options as well. So we went that route because it was just, there's so many more benefits to it. So it's probably new for some people. They haven't ever listened to an audio experience or an audiobook on
it's
podcast
not
form.
an average audiobook. It was channeled.
Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah,
it's very different.
One of the consistent messages that we're getting in terms of feedback is that people are listening to it several times. And that you make sure that you're quiet and you sit still when I think you had a friend who said he was trying to listen in the car.
Yes, yeah. He said I couldn't. He said I got to turn it off. And
yeah.
Even though I have a little how to listen to the book. The very first chapter is just me explaining how to listen. Headphones, take your time, relax.
It isn't a book. It's a journey. It's going to take you on a journey, and one that is designed to allow transcendence, to take us to another place, to another state. And I am so grateful that you were a part of the project, that you came along, because your skill, your insight, your wisdom, your brilliance, all of these things, it simply would not be what it is without you. And I have to say that so very clearly, that I also feel that we were divinely inspired to do this together, that we were brought together to do this without question, and that it allowed us both to bring very unique but complementary gifts to the table. And I'm very grateful to have had this experience with you, Graham. Well,
thank you, Lynette. And I really want to thank you as well for having me a part of the project, because it was something very fun for me to do. And I had no idea where it was going to go, what was going to happen. And there were so many parts of evolution, of discovery, that made it a really fun journey to learn new things and to try things. And
massive learning.
Yeah, so it's super fun, super fun. So I hope you guys all get a chance to check it out and visit mathemagical.com. And for people who want to find more out about you, they can go to your website, which is LynetteElinda.com.
That's
I'll put that in the show notes, all those links and such. And then you also have Instagram, and I think Facebook or Twitter?
YouTube.
YouTube as well, yep.
I'm not really good at keeping all that going. I got so much going on.
I'll put all your social media links and stuff in the notes.
And just, and there's more to come. There's more to come. As always, there's so much behind the scenes to put this material out there.
Yeah.
So I think it's a wonderful project that I feel very humbled to have been a part of. I really do. I'm very grateful. I'm really very excited to see what it can do.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Lynette, for being on the show. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we'll have to have you back and talk about all the other things on my list that we didn't get.
You and your lists. Okay. All right.
Okay. Thanks, Lynette.
Bye.
Bye. Well, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I really appreciate you guys all coming here, checking it out online. Maybe one day we'll have an audience. Maybe one day. Wouldn't that be fun? A live audience with people listening and have questions after. Oh man, that'd be great. Maybe we could do that digitally. In the future, I could do that digitally. There's lots of things to work out, lots of kinks, but I think that'd be really fun to get feedback after the episode. I know some people were saying it's hard to follow when we do these episodes live on YouTube and all the comments and stuff. They want to listen, and then some people want to chat. So, maybe in the future, there's a live question and answer at the end of the episode. Let me know what you think about that. There's probably a lot of technical issues and challenges that would have to be solved, but I think that would be really fun. And in the future, I'm kind of done with the whole digital thing, to be honest. I'm done with all the, yoga classes or fitness classes or meetings over Zoom and stuff. I'm so done with all that. But in the future, it'd be great. I'm thinking to have a live audience. Wouldn't that be so much fun? Oh, I think that'd be great. So let's keep that vision in our minds. If that's something you're interested in, you want to be a part of, keep that vision in your mind. Help me create that for everybody. And so special thank you to Eskimotion for the intro music. It's called In Dreams. You can find Eskimotion on your favorite music streaming platform or service. He's also got a new album out called 11. So I love that album. It's great to go walking in the woods or out in nature and something and just have your own soundtrack to life when you want that. Sometimes you just want to listen to nature, but sometimes I want a little soundtrack, and Eskimotion is my go-to. So big shout out and thank you to Eskimotion for the use of his music. I also want to share with you guys my little discount code for getlambs.com. The discount code is Time Has Come. You can get yourself a discount off your apparel that you buy there. They sell electromagnetic radiation blocking t-shirts and underwear and women's underwear and beanies and caps. And in Canada, we call them toques, but because it's an American company, they call them beanies. So we call it a toque. Anyways, you can get them all on getlambs.com. Use the promo code Time Has Come, and you can get yourself a little discount there. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to send you my well wishes. I want to send you my love and strength and courage too, because we need more strength. We need more courage, even more than we already have. Keep building that, keep cultivating that, and living it in your life. This is an amazing transformation that we're going through on Earth right now. And I am so committed to actively creating a world where we come together, we're stronger, we're more unified, we're more powerful, we're more peaceful, we're more discerning, we're more courageous. That's what I wish for all of you. That's what I wish for myself. That's what I wish for the world. That's the vision I'm holding. So I want to send all of you courage, strength, power, love, and peace. So that's my wish for all of you. That's what I'm sending out. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I love you all. Cheers.